I want to talk about pockets of a movement. And specifically, what I mean here is a lot has been said about Comicsgate. This isn't a video about Comicsgate, but I want to examine the different things that make up any kind of movement and why it's always hard when we live in a polarized one side or the other situation because there are many different facets to everything. And the more we ignore that, the more we lose. I want to explain that in relation to comics. So here we go. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. Some time ago, and a lot of people cite this as 2016, the election of Donald Trump, but it actually went back further than that. We've been inching forward toward this for quite some time, and it's the polarization of our society. And it's not, it's not like, in many cases, football is a little bit more healthy, where you have people who live in their hometown and they root for the home team, and then there's bitter rivalries between certain regions, but you don't have a binary choice. You don't have two. And in politics, for a long time, it's been moving toward two. You have Democrats, you have Republicans. Both groups realize that if you attack the other and if you make it into kind of a battle for supremacy, kind of a last stand against the invaders coming at you, that you can raise a lot of money that way. And if you can raise a lot of money, you can get a lot of power. And if you get a lot of power, then you can keep raising money, and on it goes. And weaponizing politics, because for a long time, politics were considered not necessarily things you talked about in public, and also, boring in a lot of cases. But leave it to good Fox News made news entertaining. They made a news entertainment format that was punchy, that was quick in how it put facts out, and it kind of kicked the old cable news, kind of the stuffy old kind of way news was reporting on its ear, and instead we got very sensationalistic news. And so, CNN, MSNBC, others, not wanting to let one group take it and run with it, decided, hey, let's do the same. So, what does all this have to do with comics? Well, I think that for a long time there were a number of different opinions about comics, and fights are not new. I've said that on this channel. I've said it on other channels. There have always been fights, either about which company is better or which character is better, or even if certain new characters are replacing old characters. One of the things that recently I was reminded of was during Age of Apocalypse, this character Blink was introduced, and Marvel did some marketing of Blink as a character in the 90s that was kind of like, hey, this is exciting. People should get behind Blink. And Blink was, it could teleport and other things. And there were complaints in the shop, and even in the comic, I forget the weekly newsletter now that would go out. I remember this even popping up in the Wizard letters page, Wizard magazine letters page, of Blink is, the word Mary Sue didn't exist back then, but it was definitely what people were trying to describe is, why is this new female character, why is she suddenly replacing Nightcrawler and established characters, and what's going on here? Is this just a kind of a cheap attempt to bring in this new character we don't really like? And it's certainly, we didn't have the terminology today. We didn't have the internet today where people get really wound up and outraged about these things and get that momentum going. But that happened back then. But the other thing that happened is it was more like people were arguing about individual topics, and people were willing to debate individual topics. Somebody who disliked, Blink being used in Age of Apocalypse as a replacement character for Nightcrawler could align with somebody else who, say, liked Batman and didn't like Vertigo titles. I mean, you didn't have two sides. You had many different arguments, and people could go from argument to argument and have different sides, and it was healthier that way. But today we have two sides, and this was really kind of forcibly, put in my face right when I joined Twitter, because not with this account, with the Perch account. I had a comic shop account. I had some shenanigans go on with a junk news site where they did some damage to me, my store. So I'm like, well, if I'm gonna talk about opinions, if I'm going to, and not even controversial opinions, nothing you'll ever hear on this channel, this show, I think is what I would call really controversial. You don't hear me arguing that, all the female writers should be fired, or that diversity is bad or good or any of that. I'm just trying to lay out facts, and I don't think any of this is particularly controversial. But be that as it may, uh, I started this account, this Perch account. I started tweeting, and very early on, somebody was saying, "Hey, there's a block. Here's a blacklist for creators that are rude on social media." It's like Red Ring Batman, or I don't remember exactly the account. Something red was in there. Anyway, and I said, "Hey, this is not helpful. I don't think it's positive. This isn't the way to go about it. If you do a blacklist, it's going to, the optics of that are bad. It just this isn't going to help anything. It's not going to help change behavior." Because of my point, you can make you feel good, but it's not going to change anybody's behavior to suddenly have better fan interactions online. And I remember making that argument, and I replied to somebody who had the Comicsgate hashtag, so I was in that thread. And very rapidly at the same time, this guy who runs this comic museum thing down in, I think, San Francisco, comes in and labels me, "You're a comic skater." And I say, I don't completely know what that means at this current moment. I didn't. But, I think blacklists are bad. And simultaneously, I think that prices are too high, because that was the other argument that was going on. And that got into, oh, all you comic skaters are always talking about prices too high. And so I got labeled into that group. I think I got put on a block list or one or two, and I got just goofy responses. I get responses from people who clearly weren't reading any of the tweet that I wrote, anything, because they would come in and say, "You're stupid. You should believe this." And it's like, that is what I was saying, bro. I don't know what you're talking about right now. But that was how polarized it got, where even if you got kind of a whiff of something, or even if you agreed with a part of a movement or a part of a topic, suddenly you were bad, or you were on one side, you were labeled on a side. And that's the part that is screwy, because let's be honest, if you look at Comicsgate, and unfortunately there is nobody, and I will repeat, nobody who has a singular definition of what Comicsgate is. Lots of people say they claim to have the one definition, but you could talk to 5 people and get 5 different definitions. And that's fine. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's a hashtag, it's a movement, it's a comics company, it's a social brand. It's a valiant attempt to create comics. I mean, if we're going to piece it all out, then there's tons of things. Well, I don't know about tons, but there's definitely things that I would say, yeah, I'm totally in alignment with Comicsgate. For example, prices are too high. Absolutely. That is a problem for the industry. If you want it to grow and expand, that's got to be addressed. Creator, and frankly, this is where I get into trouble with the Comicsgate crowd. Creator and fan behavior at times is absolutely unproductive. It's unproductive to sales. It's unproductive to the community. It's not professional, and it's bad. And even though this is a personal account people use, if you're going to come out and you're just going to scream at people, you're going to get fired. You're going to hurt sales. That's what Chuck Wingdig discovered directly. And as Dan Slott starts saying, F all the Trump supporters, it's like you could become the next Chuck Wingdig. You should be careful, because it bypasses politics and starts going into just yelling at people, and that's not productive. And I'll hold that stance. And if that makes me anti-Comicsgate, whatever else, I think the stuff that Renfamous has done, where it's like I'll one up you, I'll be meaner than some of the Comicsgate people, and really give them a target to attack, or whatever that plan is. I think that's an absolutely terrible thing to do. I don't think it's not productive. It encourages the discourse and the fighting to just continue, but it gets people lots of likes, and it generates super chats and videos and money for people. And it's become a hobby. The SJW Spider-Man account, again, going after people day in, day out, you are helping nothing, absolutely nothing. And maybe you're doing it for some yucks of other creators and pros who would love to say that but don't feel like they can. Cool. For all we know, and quite frankly, quite likely, some creator or pro created SJW Spider-Man just like I created Perch in order so they could run their mouth. The difference is, on my account, my Twitter account, I don't run my mouth like a crazy person because I don't think it's helpful. The dopamine hit I get from acting like an asshole is relatively small. I mean, any like bit of venting and frustration, it's not worth it. I don't know anyone sane who gets angry, pops off on Twitter, says some aggressive thing, and then feels better. Because the reality is, if you say an aggressive thing, you draw aggression to you, and now you're locked into a forever aggressive battle with somebody. For what gain? It has no value to anything. At the same time, I think and I think the super chats and the long streams that an Ethan Van Sciver or some of those people will do, where they're just like, let's go rip on some people in the industry. I don't think that's helpful either. Is it entertaining for some? I'm sure it is. And is it his right to do it? Absolutely, no question about it. It's his right for all these people to do what they're doing. It's also my right to say I don't think this helps people beyond the people getting the super chats and the checks. I don't think that kind of behavior is helpful. On the other hand, and this makes people absolutely crazy, I think more comics is a good thing. Whether it's Deadbeats by Rinfamous, whether it's Cyberfrog by Van Sciver, whether it's whatever it is, if people are making comics, they're producing content. And unless the content inside those covers is, hate-filled insanity, it's better for people to create comics and to make that effort. And frankly, if I had one choice, I would say to all the people who are tweeting and doing YouTube videos and all the rest, that if they would take 50% of the time they spend on social media, stirring up trouble, and instead they put that 50% to making comics, that would be awesome. I would definitely encourage that ratio of time. But again, it's their life, it's their business. I'm just pro making comics. And I said that on Twitter at one point. I'm pro making comics. And I had a bunch of weirdos come in saying, oh, so you support Hitler. And I go, what in the hell are you talking about? I support comics. I think more comics equals a good thing. And they said, so even if Richard C. Meyer makes a comic, that's a good thing. Like, yeah, making comics is a good thing. I don't want to get away with it. Whoever the artist and author is, it's a good thing. And it's like, well, you're a Nazi. I'm like, okay, that is a ludicrous, insane statement. But if we want to go piece by piece for all the things that all these different groups, I suspect many of us, if we sat down and were honest with each other, would find common ground in almost all of them. And then we would find things we argue about in all of them. I don't believe that Marvel and DC are, enemies of the state and deserve to die because of their filth-ridden nonsense. I don't subscribe to that at all. I know some people do. And that's cool. It's your right to do it. We can argue about it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to brand you forever my enemy. And I wish and hope that more people would do the same in return. I want comics. I want talking. I want community. I'm willing and not willing. I encourage people who argue. When I go on some of these shows, myself or others, Wes over at Thinking Critical has a much bigger audience than me, and good for him. He's managing it. He's earned it. He's worked for it. And I'll do a video saying, you know what, I think, I don't think AT&T is going to sell off DC. And somebody will come on and say, you're a dumbass, and here's why you're a dumbass. And I don't know what they're expecting. Are they expecting that I'm going to get angry and fight them? Is that what the point is? Because at worst, I'm just going to ignore it. At best, I like to hear people who disagree with me. That's how I learn. I know not everybody's that way, but when I want to learn a new topic, discover something new, disagreement is almost always the way I do it. If people just are all the time saying, oh, I agree, well, I don't learn anything new. I just continue on with my opinion. Disagreement is healthy. It's not a problem. It's not opposing. It's all good. Some people have said my show and this channel sounds terrible. Yeah, I'm recording this from my car. I'm going over a bridge right now. I'm sure there's background noise. It sucks. I wish that wasn't the case. I continue to look for a magic solution. Some people say I'm boring and like listening to paint dry. Cool. I don't listen to paint dry. Unless you like listening to paint dry and then subscribe, you can do so right now. Don't forget to hit that button. I think that some people said my voice sounds, I just on a big show, like one of the big live streams. I said, like, that Perch guy sounds gay. I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, okay. I don't know what to tell you. Great. Cool. That sounds wonderful. I don't know what to say. I think that we get wrapped up in this tribalistic polarization of things, and it just we lose the ability to have reasonable discussions. If I think that Superman is a better character than Batman, I don't actually. I think Batman's a better character. But if I was to think Superman is a better character than Batman, I'd want to debate somebody on that, have an argument with them, and not forever know that the guy who liked Batman better is my mortal enemy, and I have to look for new things to fight with him about once the Batman Superman argument has expired. That all just it seems weird and unreasonable. And yes, absolutely, 2016, the election of Trump, it did generate more of this tribalism, this polarization. Some people definitely lost their minds because they expected one outcome and they got the other, and that's a shame. But it's almost 4 years later. We've got a new election coming up. Get over it. Biden can beat Trump, and then the Trump people can all be pissed for 4 years because they didn't believe Biden could beat Trump. I have no idea. What I do know is that the more we're polarized and the more those bubbles harden, the more we're going to be surprised by outcomes that go a different way than what we're being told. There were people, Karl Rove, I think, on Fox was telling everyone that Mitt Romney was absolutely going to win. The polling was wrong. And Romney lost. And people were surprised. And on the other end, CNN, 538, 537, whatever, that site was telling us Clinton was going to win, and she lost. And so what is the antidote to that? It's get more sources. It's get more information, not double down on the bad information you have. The most ludicrous thing I've ever seen in my life is people in comics who get a source of bad information. Like, for example, last year, Cosmic Book News reported that Marvel was about to be sold and shuttered by Disney. This is in March of 2019, and it would happen by summer. It was gonna happen, and it did not happen. And so what's the outcome of that? Well, weirdly, comic fans go back to Cosmic Book News and they're like, oh, they're saying that DC's going to get shut down now. Oh my God, let's do a bunch of videos on that. It's going to happen. And it's not that the people who are doing videos are making money. I get it. There's a purpose to what you're doing, and I understand. I don't agree with that, with raising kind of crazy topics for cash I don't think that's a good thing to do. But my antidote is I don't do it myself, or I try not to. But people are free to do it. No, the people that really get me are the people that come into comments or on social media or wherever and want to argue, saying, no, I heard from my source for sure that DC is going to be closed. And the source is Cosmic Book News. And for there, I have to say, why are you willingly letting yourself getting suckered twice? This site lied to you a year ago. They made up a story. It wasn't true. It was proven it wasn't true. And now a year later, why are let's just put our head back in the noose and just go in again. Do you enjoy being a rube? I'm sorry for if anybody's offended, but why do you enjoy being lied to and being wrong? Is it exciting? I don't know why. Anyway, this video kind of went all over the place. Sorry if it became a bit of a rant. The point, though, here is that, look, we all, as comic lovers, as people who are trying to find content we like and enjoy life, and on and on and on, we need to be able to allow people on all sides to find common ground. Maybe it's I have some people in my comments say I disagree with almost everything you say, but this one topic I agree with you on. That always makes me happy. That's an awesome outcome. Good. I want people to disagree with me, to listen, and maybe I challenge their opinion. Maybe I don't, and they can go into the comments and challenge my opinion. And I change my opinion. Yeah, if somebody presents a better argument, yeah, I'll change my opinion. You bet. But at the very least, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. If somebody likes Donnie Cates, and you don't like Donnie Cates because you don't like his Twitter behavior, it doesn't mean that person is a SJW Democrat must destroy person. It just means that person found something they like to read and they're reading it. The end. It can be that simple. Or maybe you really you want to like Fantastic Four, but damn it, Dan Slott blocked you and he acts like an ass. And when you read Fantastic Four, you can't get that out of your head. That's your head, your business. And if that's you, that sucks. I hear you. I have a hard time separating the art from the artist too. But if that's your opinion, we shouldn't crap on you for having that opinion. It's your mind, it's your time, it's your content. The end. You can dislike what you want to dislike for whatever the hell reason you want to dislike it. It can be that simple, and we don't have to go to war over every topic. That's the ludicrous part. Anyway, I'll wrap this up. Leave me some comments below what you think about all this, how you fit into all this. Are you like me, where you're stuck in this weird middle and you wish that would go away? Do you find at times both sides are equally aggravating because of this tribalism that goes on? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you won't mind. Would love to have your subscription. Notify if you want to be bothered. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch. And most importantly, thanks for listening. Actually, thanks for listening. Thanks for thinking. Both those are pretty important. And hey, if you listened all the way to the end, let me know. I'm always curious who does.